So I'm live here on YouTube doing the July 2019 forecast that we're going to be going through, and it's rife with eclipses and other kind of stuff. And I'm just going to wait a little bit. Looks like some people are showing up. Oh yeah, I have my little banner here. So who's here so far? Anybody want to say hi? We do have a big month coming up, and as you see right here, there's, oh, that's not the chart. Sorry, get that out of there. What is this? Let me get the good chart here. New. Okay. And this. Okay. There we go. All right. So we're going to be talking about the upcoming month here. And as you see, this is July 1st. Go back here. I go back. Just started like around making the time of day, like about 10 o'clock in the morning each day. Okay, so for July 2019, you see we start with the moon here in Gemini. And this moon in Gemini, of course, is almost new and eclipsed. So we're starting with this new eclipsed moon here on the first day, or at the very early part of July. And it's also very close to Venus. Of course, Sun and Rahu are there. And it's a lot of this Ardra eclipse energy, Ardra Nakshatra and Gemini energy at the very beginning. Now, Gemini, of course, has to do with information and communication and figuring things out intellectually, not just following your beliefs or your blind beliefs. Of course, Gemini is opposite Sagittarius. So it's really about regenerating our ideas and our mind and whatnot. And oh, here's all of the comments. I didn't have the right screen on. So yes, this Gemini energy is very much about the using your brain, using your mind to really question your beliefs. So this is a big thing that's been happening now. You've probably been seeing your paradigm shifted and your paradigm challenged and questioned the last couple weeks as we get closer to this eclipse. And I see we got some people here. Jalari Ghana says, hey, Sam. Hey there. Third eye activated. Hey, Oka. Hey. And Weird Times. Jeff Poole is here with pranams. Jeff, nice to see you. Jennifer Karoff is here. Hi. So many people I know. Soul C. Hi, Sam. There's Stephen B. Whoop, whoop. Back from his world tour. Lunar Jane Originals. Denise. Hi. Hey. Nandu is here. Ann is here. Marge says hi to all of you. Rachel Whitney. Sam the man. Yes. Yes, he is. No, and Sam, you're loved. And I'm grateful David Palmer sent me. Yes, David Palmer. He's awesome. He's on a tour. It seems he's doing good. And we have Born Lazaro. Sup, y'all? Hope everyone is doing well. David Palmer fights the light always and wins. Okay, well, we have a David Palmer fan here. So, yes, Lunar Jane Originals said thanks for the prayers a few videos ago. Really needed this, and you helped me recenter. Absolutely. And then, okay, we got enough of David Palmer here. He's great. All right, so John C. Sonar, hi Sam. Really, John? Is it really John, or is this John's alter ego? Let me know. So anyway, but yes, it's great to see everyone. And again, as we're as we're talking about this month, there's a lot of this back and forth between the Sagittarius and the Gemini energy, right? And so, of course, Gemini, we're really trying to use our mind to understand things and even understand what we really believe in, because it's very easy to believe in things, but what does it really, what difference does it make if it's blind belief? Then it's just religion. And what ultimately happens is if our belief is blind and it's not based on any kind of practice or any kind of practical understanding or application, then we also don't even use it. We wind up just being a hypocrite, literally, because then when in times of crisis, when we actually need to use our teachings, we don't use our teachings. We fall back on what we actually know and understand, which is the Gemini kind of stuff, the stuff we've already done, the skills we've already developed. We wind up falling back on that. This is why you'll hear people preach about all these things they believe. I believe this. I believe this. I just don't practice any of it. When push comes to shove, what comes out of my mouth and what I say has nothing to do with what I believe, which is the Gemini-Sagittarius problem. So we need to link those things up. We need to link our beliefs up with our words and actions. That's why you hear people try to explain what they believe. Explain would be Gemini, believe is Sagittarius. And there's this big disconnect. And again, if you're someone who then doesn't believe or doesn't want to just believe what the person's saying, you wind up losing respect for them, because it's like, you don't understand any of this. You're just a blind follower. So you don't want to be a blind follower, not just because people won't listen to what you say. Sorry, wait a minute. But also because you're not going to benefit from your teachings anyway. So these are huge themes now with this eclipse cycle. And those who have been watching my work now for the last couple months know I've been talking about this almost incessantly since Rahu went into Gemini. And now we're getting the eclipse that really shows this energy. And that's what the eclipses are, because the nodes are there the whole time. I just did a forecast today where I sent out an update that says that people focus, and often astrologers focus too much on the actual eclipse. And again, the actual eclipse is just when the node shows itself. But the whole cycle is important. So the whole cycle, we've been going through this, but when we get near the eclipse, it becomes very obvious, becomes a lot more obvious. So it doesn't have to be just that moment, like the last couple days, especially today, July 1st. Of course, tomorrow, July 2nd, we'll have the eclipse in Ardra, July 3rd. As long as the moon is still very close to the sun and near that eclipse point, we will have a lot of that eclipse energy. It'll be really prominent. And so this is why this beginning of the month, this beginning of July, with the moon in Gemini, Mrigashira, Ardra, and Punarvasu Nakshatra is definitely, and it's definitely one second, a real sort of jumping right into the the fire of this life lesson that I'm talking about. And I just put a link there if you want to see how this relates to your sign, astrologytraininglab.com. You can click that and you can see how this will relate to your sign, because it's different for each individual based on their rising sign. And that rising sign shows whether or not this eclipse cycle is in your first house or in your 10th house or in your third house or whatever it is. So that really shows how each individual is going to experience it. And a few people saying, Lisa La Rosa says, I have asked people to think of Om. Yeah, so thinking of mantras and thinking of our deeper spiritual practices are very important. Anne says, 5 planets in Sag, first house. It's been hard to practice lately, but when I do, it's powerful. Yeah, part of that is because you have Saturn Ketu in your first house if you're talking about Sagittarius ascendant, and that's a lot of pressure. Coppertop says, my moon is in Gemini. Am I doomed because of this eclipse? Nobody's ever doomed. You're only doomed because you're not putting into practice what you believe, I guess. I guess you have beliefs about this, but because you don't really understand it very well, you think you're doomed or whatever. So that kind of language is just, that's really what dooms us, is our ignorance and lack of understanding, if I can just be blunt. Because these divine sciences are there to teach us about the nature of existence. And no one with any kind of enlightened understanding thinks that the existence is here to, quote, doom us or something like that. So you should get really educated about these things properly so that you don't misuse these sciences to your detriment. Lynette Sue Crawl, there she is. So now I think there's John Sunara and Lynette Sue Crawl both here. Awesome. And Julie says, your clear communication regarding the truth is worth $1 million. Awesome. Great. So this, again, so as we go forward, these first 2 days, July 1st and 2nd, we have, and into the 3rd, for much of the 3rd, is a lot of this Gemini eclipse energy. So again, we're really seeing this culmination of a lot of these energies happening right at the beginning of the month. A lot of this stuff that we've been going through for the last couple weeks, especially, which has really been a concentrated version of the last couple months since the end of March, when Rahu went into Gemini. Rahu went into Gemini, and very shortly thereafter, we had some of the disclosures with the political stuff in U.S., with that Mueller report getting released, all that information coming out. Then not too long after that, we had the Notre Dame fire. Again, I talked about this as well. As soon as Ketu went into Sagittarius, Saturn, Ketu, and Sagittarius, and Jupiter went in there as well. So since that time, last few months, it's been this Gemini-Sagittarius polarity. So now on the eclipse, again, this last couple weeks, once we start the eclipse, the energy gets much more intense. So that's what we notice. So again, you don't have to focus so much on the exact days, but you see, as we're getting closer to these exact days, some really transformative, crazy things start happening. You can even look in the news, the last couple days in the news. Crazy thing happened with our president, just did that visit, went into North Korea. It's never happened before. Photo op, propaganda, whatever. All this stuff at the border. Again, all of these things, these walls, this is all also Gemini-Sagittarius stuff. We're seeing this whole kind of belief system, religion. And again, religion is also politics in our world. The worldview that we believe, the worldview that we are ascribing to. For example, are Mexicans all criminals and rapists? Are all these people coming into the border just, illegals that should be treated like crap? And not, again, all of this stuff, what's your view about these things? It's all shifting and changing. Maybe you were a real conservative, now you're a little more liberal. Maybe you were more liberal, now you're a little more conservative and realistic, whatever. Questioning the whole paradigm of whatever is going on is a big part of this next year and a half since the end of March and early April, when we saw those things shift. And so that's a big part of what's going on. By the way, I appreciate all the people wishing me happy birthday. Yeah, thank you. It's tomorrow. And thank you very much. Just getting older. It's not that big of a deal anymore. So as we go forward into July 4th, we see the moon, July 4th and 5th, the moon goes into Cancer. And this moon in Cancer has a lot to do with reconnecting to the heart and really bringing this feeling of devotion into your life. And again, that feeling of devotion is very powerful to going deeper than just all of the emotions, just all of the emotions that has you riding up and down on the surface of the mind and on the surface of the world. These emotions are what keep you disconnected from that deeper devotion. So it's easy to get attached to all of the forms of the world and even all of the interactions with other people, and I like this thing, I don't like that thing, it's this and that, all of the attractions and aversions. But deeper than that is something much more devotional and much more eternal and real. So especially on the 6th, or I'm sorry, especially on the 4th, 3rd and 4th, the moon is going to be close to this debilitated Mars. And the debilitated Mars is it's calming down some of the aggression. You know, we came very close to that war with Iran, with starting a shooting war with Iran when Mars and Rahu were exact. Talked about this last week. That's why I keep doing these updates. Because we saw that Mars-Rahu, when they were really close, that's when all of that potential contentiousness with Iran happened. That was very dangerous. And I said, since Mars had cleared Rahu, I said, now I think it's going to start to wane. And the fact that Mars was about to go into Cancer, we were going to see that militant, war-like mentality start to calm down, especially like that hot war that was going on perhaps with Iran. So we saw some of that, or, you know, we're seeing some of that now. But what happens is that the, you know, when Mars is in Cancer, the militant nature calms down and we become much more emotional, though. So there could be more emotional pain and struggle that can happen when Mars is in Cancer. So notice that, and especially on July 4th and 5th, with the moon closer to Mars, and especially with the debilitated Mars, it's great to connect with the heart, to deeper devotion, but there might be quite a bit of restlessness with Mars there and also Mercury there, bringing a lot of ideas. So it's great for mantra, meditation practice. Again, you can say the great mantra, Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. This is the great mantra for may all beings in all the worlds be happy and peaceful. I said it the last couple live videos, I said we need to say these peace mantras. We need to say these peace mantras. And don't think they don't work. What was the chance? Trump was about to fire on Iran again, and if he would have laid missiles against Iran after they shot down that drone, Iran would have continued to retaliate, and before you know it, the Middle East could be on fire, and God knows what could happen. And he didn't do it. And I give him all the credit in the world, but don't think that your prayers don't have impact. They have impact in ways you're not aware of. So these prayers, Lokaha, Samastaha, Sukhino, Bhavantu, they go into the Akashic realm and they transform the world. This is why the ancient Vedic people chanted these mantras. We need to chant these mantras and have them go into the minds of the leaders and the people that control all these weapons and stuff. So this peace mantra is a great mantra that Amma, my guru, has told us to say. And we've been saying that now in her presence for years. And it's a great, it's a great mantra. You'll put that up here. May all beings be happy and free. May the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and freedom for all. That's a nice explanation. So Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. That's how you say it. You can repeat this over and over in your mind. It also brings peace to you because you're the first point of entry into the peace of the world. Don't worry about changing the world. Change yourself. Change your mind and your heart first. And then you become a symbol and a transmitter of peace yourself. So moving forward, on July 6th and 7th, the moon goes into Leo. So July 6th and 7th, the moon goes into Leo. So that's very much about our fiery individuality and that quality of fiery individuality that brings about a sense of dignity and a sense of purpose and a sense of direction, and to also sacrifice what we're looking for in our day-to-day life, our day-to-day happiness. You know, Leo is very much about a higher purpose. So on those days, on July 6th and 7th, those are very good days for, again, like sacrificing your worldly pleasure and happiness for something that's more elevated and more enlightened. So for me, July 6th and 7th, I'm teaching a class on the lunar nodes, weekend course. So that's why I picked those days. I picked those 2 days because they're good for doing things like teaching. So I picked that weekend. And so it's very good for that. But, you know, it's in your relationships, for example, on the 6th and 7th, you might be less interested in romance and things like that, and maybe just more interested in something higher. But it can also be good for gregarious fun and romance, but sometimes it's more individualized than happens in our relationships. I'm going to keep this up because Anne Laura says, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. At the end of every meditation at Amritapuri, we say this mantra 9 times with Amma. Right. We also say it when she was she's still here in the United States, and people should go to see if Amma is coming near you. Even if she's not, you should go to her. We have this amazing being traveling around. You click that link, amma.org, and look at her U.S. tour and go spend time with her. I know she's on the East Coast now. She's going up to New York, and then she's going to be in Toronto at some point, which is where I'm going to see her 2 weeks from now, which I'm going to get to in a minute. We have the lunar eclipse on 2 weeks, and that's also called Guru Poornima. That's the day to spend with your guru. And my guru will be in Toronto, Canada, so I'm going to go visit her. And the guru is Amma, and she is the one getting everyone to chant Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Millions of people all around the world every day chant this all day. So, well, Anne, Amma already went to Santa Fe, so she already went right in your backyard, and you obviously didn't go. So that's sad. So again, but these great beings that come to Earth teach us great lessons and show us how to live in alignment with spirit. So that's there. These are the most important things. You know, when I do these forecasts and talk about this energy, we focus on that, and it's important, of course. But the most important thing is to do the spiritual practices and to and Laura, this is Sundari. Oh, is this my Sundari that I know, who's always pushing everybody out of the way to get up front? Is that who Anne Laura is? So you people hide behind these aliases, and I don't know who you are. So if it's the Sundari that I know, then that's good. So the most important things, again, you know, astrology just helps us to understand what we're doing in the world and what these cycles are. But the real power is in doing these spiritual practices, in doing all of this, these actual sadhanas. Okay, well, Anne Laura, I'll remember that you're Sundari. You should put a picture up so I know who it is. Okay. So let's keep going. But again, all of these spiritual practices are what really make a difference in your life, much more so than just being in your head with astrology. Now, my great students that have been studying with me in depth, especially for years, and they really understand how to use astrology in their life, then it's different. But then you're really embracing it and you're really studying it, and it becomes a whole path of spiritual knowledge. It becomes a whole path of devotion and a whole path of wisdom. That's really what astrology should be for. And I'm also talking about this because on these days, especially of course around this eclipse time, these messages that you're getting, you should be really looking at these things that are happening in your life and in your world now, that are giving you signs that your life is on track or it's not on track. Again, when I started talking at the beginning of this about the Sagittarius Gemini axis, it also includes things like astrology. You have all these beliefs about astrology. You believe it's this, you believe it's that, but do you actually use it? Do you actually know how it works? Does it actually benefit you? Or do you just think it's this kind of game of, is it going to get me what I want? Or am I doomed? Or is it this or that? Again, it's just not taking you anywhere, really. And you don't have forever. Your life is a lot shorter than you think, right? So these are wake-up calls. These times are wake-up calls, right? And so you have people that are here to give you free stuff all the time, and they'll sit here for hours and talk and whatnot, but it's all just on the surface. So what you should be looking at doing, is really understanding and embracing these things on a deep level, studying with teachers, whether it's me or somebody else or whatever, and really understanding how this works and doing the practices. Again, astrology is one sort of practice. There's Dimple. Boy, I got all kinds of lovelies showing up. What we should really be doing is showing up with these spiritual practices and doing these things that really shift our consciousness in our life, not just staying on the surface, even with things like astrology. And I see Dimple is here from India, one of my great friends, studied long time and been a long time astrologer herself. And so again, all of this is fantastic. And I'm glad to see so many people that I know who are Amma devotees and who are astrologers and astrology students and whatnot, who have been embracing these teachings. So again, this eclipse time is really powerful to align your energy with those things. So we have, again, just to continue with the forecast, after the moon goes through Leo on the 6th and 7th, and we really connect that divine mind with, or that limited mind with the divine mind, then we move into the next phase, which is July 8th and 9th. The moon goes through Virgo. And it's very much about those qualities of being very sensible and rational and organizing all of that power and those teachings and all those higher lessons that we learn as the moon just went through Cancer and Leo, and that sattvic energy, and that and all of that higher knowledge. Because when the moon goes through Cancer and Leo, it's really very much trying to connect with that sattvic divine knowledge, that source of knowledge and that source of love and wisdom. But then it goes into Virgo, and we have to organize that. Again, just like you're very inspired about astrology and things like this, that inspiration and that sense of that big universal, answer can be really felt in the Cancer Leo section. But then Virgo is like, yes, but how does it work? Give me the details. Give me the deets, right? So on July 8th and 9th, the moon goes through Virgo, which is very much about all of those details. So this, it's really a good time for taking your studies very seriously, not just playing around. It's a tamasic sign, so we're willing to do the hard work to really grow. And during that time, in fact, on the 8th, you see Mercury turns retrograde. So on July 8th, Mercury turns retrograde right on Mars. So Mars and Mercury are aligned. You'll see that Mercury starts to station right with Mars. So you see Mars and Mercury hanging out within a couple degrees. Mercury stops, he stations, and then turns retrograde on the 8th. And so this stationary retrograde, and with Mercury in Cancer, is also going to set this off in motion for about 3 weeks, where it could be a sort of confusing time to some extent, because Mercury in Cancer is not so clear. It's not so precise. It's more emotional. Also with Mars there, it might be that sort of passion, those sort of passionate, intense emotions. So this could be, let me pull the chart up. So again, this is where we have that retrograde. Thought I had the screen up. This is on the 9th, but it actually turns retrograde on the 8th, right? So not only does the moon go into Virgo, actually on the end of the 7th, but then Mercury turns retrograde. So this is starting a cycle where, even though we want these details and we want them to make sense, they're kind of blurry and kind of fuzzy. We're kind of emotional. So you have to be careful during that time with this Mercury retrograde from July 7th till about, to around the end of July, that you're not so emotional about your words, and especially with your language. It can be very easy when Mercury is, especially in the water sign, and even when he's retrograde, that we get our feelings hurt too easily. Then we say things that are confusing, and that we don't, we kind of misspeak, and we don't communicate so well. Especially this first part, these first couple days, July 8th and 9th. Look, he's right on Mars. Ooh, we know what that means, right? So be very careful on July 8th and 9th, especially, and even leading up to it, that you don't get frustrated and irritated with your partners or friends because of that Mercury retrograde in Cancer, very close to debilitated Mars. Okay. So after the 8th and 9th, and the moon goes through Virgo, and we're in that more organized way, then on the 10th and the 11th, the moon is in Libra. Now the moon goes into Libra, and Libra comes after Virgo, where we have this after all of those details, and that even sort of worrying about whether or not we have everything straight, the moon goes into Libra, which is about connecting all of that with other people, especially like our favorite people, right? Our favorite people. Hang on a second. And so our favorite people, like some of my favorite people, here's one of my favorite people, Lynette Sue Kroll, wishing me a happy solar return. Thank you, Lynette. So again, Libra is that sign where we want to be engaged with others, and we want to be happy with others and please them, as well as have ourselves pleased, right? This flow of compromise where we enjoy someone else's company and we share ideas and we laugh together and things like that. So that could be some very good days here on the 10th and the 11th. It's very, it can be very good for your relationships and your other things also that bring joy and beauty. When the moon is in Libra, it in general, it has a quality of, wanting to not just enjoy life, but to bring beauty and to bring grace and, manners, politeness, thinking about other people, that kind of thing is very important, right? To getting along in the world and really, literally, really appreciating other people in your life. So it's a great day to really appreciate others in your life, the 10th and the 11th. And notice how sometimes, again, we tend to focus on how much we're appreciated, on how much we're appreciated, and we often feel unappreciated, and we focus on that part rather than appreciating others first. So appreciate others first, and then see how much appreciation you get. They're very related, if not exactly concurrent with each other. There's the famous and well-known idea that you want to find the thing that you're not getting enough of and give it. Give the thing you're not getting. Start giving the thing that you're not getting, and notice how much you start getting it. It's a very good one. And again, it should be something that's positive, like respect, appreciation. So again, when their planets in Libra, they're respectful, and they give respect first. This is why they're respected and loved and appreciated, because they give it first. They don't say, well, I'll give it if you give it to me. Give it to me first and then I'll give it. That's not giving. And that's a negative quality of Libra, where it's too transactional. So just give it first. So, oops. Yeah. And so now moving on the 12th and 13th, on the 12th and 13th, the moon moves through mean old Scorpio. Mean old Scorpio. And we have the, I'm just making the joke, of course. The moon, when it goes through Scorpio, does have that difficulty feeling generous at times, because we're worried that we're going to be vulnerable and exposed. And again, part of the reason why we might not give so much in Libra is because we know, well, when I've given before, I got hurt, and I don't want to get hurt again, which is the negative quality of Scorpio. So I'm not going to give. So I'm not going to share first. I'm not going to be open and share so much. So, because I'm afraid I'm going to not get what is coming my way. Well, what happens if I give? What happens if I, for example, forgive or apologize? Or what happens if I do that and then the other person doesn't give it back? Then what? Then I'm going to feel embarrassed or weird or nervous, or then I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get my feelings hurt. So I'm not going to give. Again, this is the negative quality. This is a negative quality of Scorpio, whereas underneath it all, Scorpio has a lot of power and courage, but they have to stop trying to save their skin, right? When Scorpio is always trying to save their own skin, then they get into the negative quality. So give the thing that you want to receive, right? As I said before. So this is a big part of what you want to keep in mind as the moon is going through Scorpio. And this transit of the moon through Scorpio should be pretty powerful, because it's joined Jupiter. Jupiter's very bright. It's exalted. I'm sorry, it's not exalted, but it's retrograde, so it's very big. And this moon going through Scorpio, you'll have that potential to get triggered that way and to protect yourself. But then, again, Scorpio is a very deep sign of devotion. And it's also joined Jupiter, which is guru and teacher. So again, this is why what I said before, and I have people here who are devotees of Amma that I've known for years, and all this stuff. When you get around an enlightened being such as Amma, all these things, even all of the astrology and all of the charge around this stuff calms down, because you're connected to the source. You're a lot closer to the source. But even when you're not, even when you're living your regular life in the world, if you keep doing your spiritual practices and you keep doing this and you keep this connection to the heart, then you're not so easily triggered and knocked off base. So that quality of the moon going through Scorpio does just take you right to that devotional place. But again, if you don't have spiritual practice, or you're not connected to, higher teachings and higher wisdom, which again, sometimes Scorpio can be afraid to let go of that as well. No, I'll figure it out myself. I got to handle it myself. Again, that creates this stress. So on the 12th and 13th, with the moon going through Scorpio and join Jupiter, it's very good for surrender, relax into your deeper self, and not get so triggered. Then on 14th, 15th, and into the 16th, we have the moon in Sagittarius with Ketu and Saturn. And this is very much about this. One second. I'm sorry, looking at something here. Okay, so this this quality of the moon going through Sagittarius and going through just doing this thing here. One second, got a little technical thing here. One second. Okay, so when the moon lines up in the Sagittarius axis, and we have this Ketu Saturn conjunction, it's going to bring a lot of these serious problems, or what has seemed to be a problem, into your mind. It's going to be an intense transit for sure. Okay, it's also near the next eclipse, and we're going to have the full moon in. I should say that this full moon is going to be what's called the Guru Poornima. And Guru Poornima means the full moon of the guru, the full moon of the teacher. And this full moon of the teacher is to reestablish and reassert that those higher teachings that is so, that are so hard to stay in contact with. This sorry, there's a little glitch here. Anyway, so this so on the 14th, 15th, and 16th, this transit through Sagittarius certainly is trying to connect us with the higher inspiration, the higher teachings. Saturn and Ketu are definitely in contention here, where it's bringing that stress and fear and worry, and bringing out that part of us that we've been working on for the last, actually, especially with Saturn there since 2017. And then Ketu and Saturn have been there since the end of March. So a lot of this pressure that we've been talking about around our beliefs and that whole belief end of it, you may really feel either all of your beliefs really challenged and pressured and destroyed, and that they don't feel so good. Or again, if you have good teachings and you have good teachers and you have these great enlightened beings and Sadgurus, and then all of your practices then take you right to the source. Again, that's why we have these alignments. That's why it's called Guru Poornima, this full moon of the guru. That's what this full moon is in Sagittarius. So this full moon in Sagittarius is usually Guru Poornima. This year, the exact, let me just pull it up here. I think it's still at the very end of Sagittarius at 29. Yeah, 29. It's like 29. 55. So it's right at the very end of Sagittarius. That's where we usually have the Guru Poornima is in Sagittarius at the very end. So this whole transit, though, of the 14th, 15th, and 16th is going to have this quality of making you get serious about your teachings, serious about your guru. And if you are, and you're actually doing the practices, it can really just totally transport you. The other thing to watch for around this time is this Kundalini awakening that is definitely possible now. I've been doing a lot of readings these last few weeks, and so many people having these Kundalini awakenings and Kundalini experiences that are remarkable. If you don't know what the Kundalini is, of course, it's this part of your astral body, not your physical body, that is connected to the deeper energy currents that are transcendent, that it's not just part of this world and this mind. It's actually about your higher cosmic nature. And so July 14th, 15th, and 16th especially, watch for some powerful Kundalini experiences, especially if you're someone who does meditate regularly, does have a spiritual practice. And I mean, I just want to be clear as well. And I don't mean meditating where it's just like, again, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I mean real meditation where it's like yoga and pranayama and intense meditation where you really concentrate and you go deep into the self and that calm, deep, peaceful nature. If you're doing that kind of intense meditation, pay attention. In fact, pay attention now, today and tomorrow on this eclipse as well. And you've probably already been having some crazy Kundalini experiences, but on July 14th, 15th, and 16th as well, very powerful for that Kundalini experience. The Saturn Ketu in Sagittarius, very, very much about that, okay? So then let me go here on 17th and 18th. So 17th and 18th, the moon then goes into Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, of course. So after Sagittarius, now we have this seriousness of Capricorn where we are now trying to really focus and commit to literally to our own salvation and learn the truth about why we're here and really commit to that, okay? So on those days, and again, this is after that full moon and the Guru Poornima and the lunar eclipse, which are all happening on the 16th, 17th and 18th, again, it's really good for integration and bringing those experiences. Hopefully, you're actually doing the spiritual practices. It's bringing those into your life and experience. And, you know, through your daily routines and focused habits and commitments, that's Capricorn. So all that powerful Capricorn energy is really going to help to take it out of the etheric spirit, you know, out of the etheric abstract quality of Sagittarius and bring it into the day-to-day methodical practices of Capricorn. 17th and 18th, that will be important. Then the 19th, 20th, and into the 21st, the moon goes into Aquarius, also ruled by Saturn. But this is more about the commitment to the outer world, our commitment to the, you know, to like save the world or to show up in a higher way for culture and humanity and things like that. So this culture and humanity and those higher purposes are going to be important on 19, 20, and 21st, right? So again, this is about service. This is about higher goals. Again, sort of leaving the world a better place that you found it, right? Once you understand that you're just not, you know, once you stop just trying to cling to this life and this world, which is the lower form of Capricorn. Once you work through all of that stress and fear, then you realize, okay, I'm going to die one day and this will all pass. And then we graduate into that Aquarius mode, that higher Aquarius mode, which is about doing something good for the world, leaving the world better than we found it. 19, 20, and 21, those days will be important for that. 22 and 23, July 22nd and 23rd, the moon is in Revati. Now it's going to be aspected by Jupiter on those days as well. I'm sorry, not Revati, Pisces, excuse me. So it'll be in Pisces, which is about letting go even of the world. In Aquarius, we're still trying to save the world and do something for the world. In Pisces, we're even letting go of that. We're not even like a part of the world. We're a cosmic being. So again, this is where we can come to the understanding that I'm in the world, but not of the world. That's really Pisces. And that Pisces nature is very much about escapism, one way or another. Sometimes we escape into some fantasy, some romance, some romantic fantasy about the world. Usually because we're not so grounded and established in our practices, our spiritual practices, the authentic spiritual practices. Not, again, one of the things we always have to watch out for is, even when we say spiritual practices and whatnot, it's actually most of the time what we're doing is we're doing things that make us feel good. Some calm emotional state, or maybe even an elated emotional state. Oh, it was so spiritual. I was so happy. And so that's sort of spiritual. It's close, but spiritual is actually, it's spiritual because, first of all, it's peaceful. Not fun, peaceful. They're different. Doesn't necessarily make you happy. It makes you calm and peaceful. Because until you can be peaceful and calm, you cannot glimpse your true nature. Happiness is still a wave. It's still an emotional wave. And it's the emotional waves that obscure our clear vision of ourself. You can imagine looking into water, and there's ripples on the surface of the water. Some of the ripples are happy ripples, some are sad ripples, some are just ideas, but all of them obscure your ability to see all the way to the bottom. And so what authentic spiritual practice does is make the mind still, not necessarily happy, in fact, often not happy, at least as you're getting there. So again, I'm only saying this because many times Pisces energy is trying to escape into something that it makes me feel good. Again, that's often leads to a lot of escapism. It's just emotions, a lot of emotions. Again, it's better, quote, to have that sort of fun emotion, or that elational, even that devotional emotion is very emotional, and we can get addicted to the emotion of it. Again, it's a higher emotion, but it's still an emotion, and we can get stuck in that. So again, the real nature of Pisces is not some emotional experience. In fact, it's about liberation and letting go. And that means letting go of the good stuff as well. I say all the time, everybody says they want liberation, but we really don't want liberation. We want liberation from our pain. We want liberation from our suffering, and we want to keep the good stuff. I want to keep all the stuff that feels good and be liberated from all the stuff that feels bad. And that's just one more kind of version of the ego trying to get what it wants. And again, this is what's in the Bhagavad Gita and all of those things as well. It's very much about surrender. So moksha is not about any emotional state. It's about freedom, liberation, peace, stillness. So keep that in mind as the moon goes through Pisces on those days, on the 22nd and 23rd. And Jupiter is aspecting, especially on the 23rd, as the moon goes through Revati, nakshatra. So then on the 24th, 25th, and into the 26th, the moon is in Aries. And Aries is ruled by Mars. So it's a time of new beginnings and things starting. And, again, we often feel very enthusiastic and wanting to start something new. Sometimes that means breaking something old. Again, they're kind of similar theme. So you want to be careful about breaking things too quickly on those days, especially on the 24th. So 24th, 25th, 26th, moon in Aries definitely has a lot of that enthusiasm, but it's also very individualized. So it's good to start something new and have that enthusiasm and that sort of personal courage. 26, 27, 28. Halfway through the 26th, I would say. And then 27 and 28, the moon is in Taurus. Now, this is where the moon is exalted, opposite where it was debilitated in Scorpio. It's exalted in Taurus because it's where the moon is still and solid. And the mind isn't so restless. And it can sink into that calm and stillness that I was talking about. So that stillness and calm and peace is a lot to do. This is why the moon is exalted in Taurus, because that supports the stillness, calm, and peace and contentment that needs to come through the moon in order for us to be able to calm the mind and still the mind. So again, when you look at where the moon is debilitated, which was Scorpio, it's about a lot of emotion, wanting positive emotions, but also negative emotions. It's just about this emotional drama is the simplest word, although it sounds like a criticism, it's not, but just wanting a lot of excitement. Again, that even when the moon is in Scorpio or anything, nothing happens on the level of our consciousness until it calms down, until the waters are still. That's eventually what brings clarity. Turning down the volume of the world, the senses, our emotions, that's what leads to stillness. And unless there's stillness, there's no perceptive clarity. We're just one emotion after the next. So the moon in Taurus, in its exalted sign here, halfway through the 26th, then the 27th and 28th, really brings some stillness and peace. So those are good days for your meditation to go deep. Then 29, 30, 31, 29 and 30 and halfway, actually just 29 and 30, I guess we would say. The moon is in Gemini again, and you see Mercury has gone retrograde back into Gemini, and it's also joined Rahu again where it was eclipsed the last time, right? This is now July 30th, July 29 and 30. So it's a similar theme that we started with in the month, where the moon is now back in Gemini. Now, the sun isn't there, so it's not the eclipse, but it's still there with Rahu. And now Mercury has also gone back into it. So again, these will be a couple days where we're really keyed into our communication and details and all of that stuff that we started the month with. But now it's not an eclipse, but we've been through the eclipse. We've also been through the lunar eclipse and Guru Poornima. So now, a month from now, you will have gone through all the stuff I just said, and it'll be a new experience of this Gemini sign. Again, these cycles happen, the moon goes through Gemini 12 times a year. You get to experience that. Goes through each sign. These cycles are really powerful, right? So you'll experience it again, and now hopefully with more clarity, more understanding, more flexibility. You will have hopefully worked through some of your preconceptions and biases and false beliefs, and now you're seeing things with more discrimination and clarity. And Mercury retrograde there is also, quite supportive for introspection, going inward and really feeling and sensing what the truth is, what the true information is. So notice that around the end of the month, around the end of July and early August, Mercury backs up into Gemini again, so that we can get some real discrimination. So then on July 31st and August 1st, July 31st and August 1st, the moon is in Cancer again. Mercury turns direct on August 1st. But we'll have the moon in Cancer, and it'll actually be a new moon on the on July 31st. It'll be a new moon, so we'll start a new cycle then. And it'll be the cycle of Cancer, right? So after Gemini, then we have the cycle of Cancer. So it'll be very much about a reset. And the quality of Gemini to Cancer is where we have to take that information and all those details and that curiosity and flexibility and bring it into our heart and into our intuition, so that we can really benefit from it, and so that it can be integrated and be an integral part of our being. I was just having a conversation over the weekend. I went to a conference. I went to a festival in Fraser Park called Moksha Fest. And I was having a conversation with one of my brothers up there, and our conversation was about, he was, I guess, sort of praising me a little bit. He was praising me, but in a very interesting way, because I was with one of my students who was there, and he was talking to my student as well. She also knows me very well, but what he said was that, the thing most people don't know about Sam, the thing most people don't recognize about Sam is that he's very much a bhakta, or very much devotional, which means very much, even though he's very intellectual, he was talking about me, that even though I'm very intellectual, it's actually all devotion. And he knows this because he met me years ago at a yoga ashram. We were both teaching there, and I was very devotional and got very devotional when I'm in those kinds of environments and meditations and all of that. You can see the devotional side, right? And then we got to talking, and I was like, and he's actually much more what you would recognize as someone who is more of a bhakta, or more of a devotional sort, at least initially. When you talk to him, he's very soft, and he comes off that way as being very devotional. But then when you start to talk to him, I mean, first of all, he's got a PhD in like Asian studies or something, and he's like a total intellect. I mean, he's just so intelligent. And so what you see is that all of those ideas, for example, all of the knowledge of Gemini, all of that data, of course it's important, but unless it goes into the heart, it's just like a computer or something that has no soul, has no heart, because the heart is what integrates everything. The heart, and I'm not talking about the emotions. Again, I'm talking about these differently. The emotions are the surface of the heart. I'm talking about the heart, the soul, the heart and soul is where everything gets integrated. It's where all of the data and the information of Gemini and Mercury gets integrated into the heart. Because the heart is what unites everything. That's what allows, again, you have to think of the heart in a different way. It's what's called manas in Indian thinking, and everything comes from the heart, comes from the depth of the heart. We tend to think the heart is the emotions. It's not. It's the source of everything, including what's called the buddhi, which is the intellect. This is why there's a great story about the buddhi, or Mercury, who was called Buddha, was born from the wife of Chandra, the moon. So even the moon is born, the intellect, or Mercury, is born in the heart. So all of that information needs to be integrated through the heart. Otherwise, it's just dry facts and data, and it's not going to benefit you. This is the problem when people just try to, let's say, even study astrology on their own, just by gathering a lot of details. All it does is make you crazy because it's not integrated in the heart. You don't understand it on a deep level. And when we make a statement like don't understand it on a deep level, what that means is it's not integrated in your heart. It's not anchored to the source. And the source of your entire mind and identity and existence is the heart. And again, that's what Cancer is all about. What we tend to think, again, this is the illusion of the buddhi, or of especially this world now, the internet world and the gathering information and self-study. What we tend to think is that I'm gathering a lot of information about astrology and I'm gathering a lot of details and stuff like that, which is great, but I don't really understand it yet. So I need to get more details and gather more information. And maybe it's this really complicated thing because I already understand this thing. Maybe it's this more complicated thing. Time out. What's really going on is, first of all, you don't understand the thing you think you understand. Just because you've gathered a lot of details about something, just because you can recite, well, my planet is exalted, so blah, blah, just because, well, I'm in this dasha, so blah, blah. You don't even begin to know what that means unless you've, again, it's not anchored in the heart. It's just some kind of data. It's just some detail that you've memorized. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's the first part of learning. But integrating it into the heart needs to happen before anything else more complicated gets poured in. And so this is the problem of what we're going on, what happens now with the online learning and stuff. And, that's why I teach. That's why I have these certification courses and these other courses, because all that information, it's great that you've gathered it. But if it's not organized and it's not in the right order and in the right proportion, I wouldn't say it's useless, but it's not helping as much as you might think. And in fact, it could be hurting because you could be drawing a lot of conclusions that are not right at all. And you have no business drawing those conclusions. It's like a person who has a little ache or pain and they go on WebMD and all of a sudden they figured out that they must have a tumor or something when it just had a little strained muscle, and they make themselves paranoid. So I deal with this all the time with students that think they learn or think they know something and they don't. In fact, it's worse than not knowing something. It's better to not even form any opinion than to form the wrong opinion. And by the way, this is in the Vedic astrology text as well. It's stated very clearly that it's better to either get trained really well and learn it or to not bother with it. And he even says the one who misuses this science and misunderstands it but thinks they understand it, they're like being reborn blind. So it's like every time we think we know something, if we've learned it incorrectly, it's like we're just reinforcing our blindness. So keep that in mind. And again, I'm reaffirming these ideas because of the cycle we're in, because we're in this Gemini cycle right now, where this is the stuff that we need to be learning now. This is the stuff that we need to be paying attention to now. This is the real stuff. We're needing to use our proper discrimination to understand what we don't understand, to recognize what we don't know yet, and how much illusion we have around what we think we know. This illusion of knowledge is huge in our world now. We live in this fake news world where just because we don't like something that's called fake news, or we think that now that we have access to all this information and most of it is not correct, well, I don't need the entire history of science to figure things out. I've decided because of a few videos that the earth is flat. I've decided. It's my opinion. And if you don't respect my opinion, it's because you're not open-minded. And I mean, this is how insane the arguments get, by the way. It's not even a matter of, again, people concocting these theories, but then they concoct these theories. And then if you, just because you say, but that's not based on anything, you're just completely wrong. All of your statements are wrong. Then again, well, that's just, you're just brainwashed by the media and this. And again, this complete post-factual reality is upon us now. Of course, this has come out in a huge way in the astrology world with the whole zodiac debate of the last few years, where nothing sensible about it at all. Indians never did anything like a tropical zodiac. Every text says sidereal zodiac. Everyone. But because people pick a couple things here and there and then have a bunch of wild beliefs already and then throw out these opinions as if they're facts suddenly and expect it to be legitimate. Expect people to just go, well, okay, I guess now because people hold this opinion, I guess it's supposed to be just as legitimate as the truth. And what really makes them angry is when people like myself say, I'm sorry, but it's not true. I'm sorry. And what's even more infuriating is those who just go along with it because they want everybody to like them. A lot of astrologers who are just like, well, okay, I guess I got to be open-minded now to this. This is here now. So the entire history and truth of Vedic astrology doesn't matter anymore because there's a few people with this opinion now. So got to make sure I'm open-minded. Again, it's like nothing is real anymore. And this is the kind of stuff that we're grappling with in this world now. And a lot of the stuff that we're trying to see beyond. Because the truth still does exist. And you can't, just because you want to make something up and say it, doesn't make it true, doesn't make it legit. And those who won't call it out as well as saying, look, you know, you see it with the media all the time now these days. Even, I'm just going to say it too, like with our president or whatever, who clearly says things that are not true. Just flat out, it's not a debatable point. And they won't, and they don't call it out. They just go on like, well, I don't know. He says it's true. Like that's the way they will report the news. He says he didn't say it. We just heard him say it. So these are the kinds of things that this is the nature of the world we're living in now, where, and it didn't used to be this way. Now we're living in this world where people just create their own reality, which gets into the conspiracy theories and just anything seems like, well, now that's legitimate. So I'm just explaining these things as a point of reference as well. And this is what's confusing and destabilizing to all of us. I know myself because I've been teaching online and, you know, since 2004. It's gotten exponentially more psycho in the last couple years, for sure. I'm sure you've been able to see it as well. But this has gone way off the rails, like nothing I've ever seen. Again, students and even just talking about like astrology students and whatnot, who it's so hard to keep people's attention anymore. We're so distracted. We're so seduced by anything that's novelty. All of the snacking, all of the illusion that people actually understand things. Again, and sometimes people don't like when I say this because they think I'm being critical or I'm a snob. Again, all this stuff comes back to me because I just say it truthfully, especially about like learning astrology. I'm just going to say it honestly. You know, I'm not putting anyone down. It's great that people are interested. I say, though, you have to be careful because your interest, again, you can't substitute a surface level interest and even a voracious appetite and interest in actual knowledge. But the reason I give the warning now is because so many people do. And so many of them even have their own channels and they get up and say things that just aren't true. And people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I sit there and I'm like, I really can't believe anybody thinks this is good. Like, there used to be much more of a standard that we were all used to. And now the standards have just gone, they've just gone off the cliff in all ways. So we need to be careful and, study things properly if you really want to know and understand astrology and whatnot. There are definitely ways to learn it really well. And now, again, with all this Gemini eclipsing going on, this is the big lesson. And I said it when I knew Rahu was going through Gemini, is awakening from this post-factual world and seeing the truth and not just being complicit in this world, but actually having to step up and say, no, this is still real and the truth still matters. And holding that line, at least recognizing it in yourself. So anyway, this has gone on hour and 15 minutes. So Angela, one of my better quotes, right? It's gotten exponentially more psycho over the last few years. Sam Jeppy. Way to go, Angela. I can get behind that quote. So Anne, I appreciate you being here. Hold the facts, reality, truth. Jennifer, been chanting and practicing mantra a lot. It's really helping me transform my anxiety and habitual mind tendencies. Great. Nice to see you, Jennifer. I remember you from Alma and a lot of other folks. Claire, thank you for being here. Jill, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Yes. It's great to understand and to learn this stuff and to just recognize, the world that we live in, and it's okay. It doesn't mean saying this stuff again. It doesn't mean saying this stuff it should even be controversial, right? Again, people think, oh, you're so angry, you're so judgmental, or like just because you're stating what's real. It's like, sorry, but truth is still truth. And those who get upset about it, you got to ask yourself, why are you so upset that someone's speaking the truth? I mean, again, we always get yelled at for speaking the truth, says Copper Top. Right. Hillary Klein says it's like discernment has gone out the window. Absolutely. Again, that's the thing that's so unsettling. It's like, how can we not recognize something that is so counterfeit as opposed to something that's the real thing anymore? So Jill says a fantastic hour. Wonderful. Well, folks, it's been good. And I appreciate you all coming. And Anne says, that's why I like you, Sam. Thank you. So happy people are talking about this. Good. Lynette says, yes, very true. So I'm glad that people, come and, show up this way and, let people know about this forecast and, my channel and whatnot. Because I do these talks every now and then, usually about once a week or so. I should be doing some more regular videos because I was just traveling quite a bit, but for the next few weeks I'm around. So appreciate everyone's attention and hope you all have a nice eclipse day. Oh, we'll end with this, with a couple of these mantras that Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. You can say it over and over and really wish all beings be happy in all the worlds. May all beings in all the worlds be happy, peaceful. That's the best wish we can have for all of us, because we're all sharing the same world. It might seem like the world is, well, who cares if there's something happening over there? It's not me. Well, one day it'll be us. One day it'll be me. So keep that in mind. And you all have a great evening.